Hello and welcome to the DJ Force 10 in Conversation podcast, episode 148. And my special guest on today's show is Skinny from Mushroomhead. They are about to release a new album called A Wonderful Life. It is out on Napalm Records on the 19th of June. Please go check out the singles they've got going at the moment. They're absolutely fantastic. I love this band. I've been a fan of theirs for 18 years, and I can actually pinpoint the date that I first saw them live as to the point that they sold me as I was a fan kind of thing, which was an absolutely great sort of life. I've still got the gig ticket, if you will, but you find out more about that in the actual interview itself. So I'm not going to spoil anything else for you on that front. I just want to give a shout out to everyone that's been downloading this show during this lockdown season that we've been having. I've still got a few more podcasts to go and a few more to record, so I'm not going to stop so much at the moment, but these things will slow down as they most naturally will, because my time becomes a bit more constrained. But I just want to give a shout out to all the press agents and stuff and all the bands that I reached out to and artists that I reached out to, and they responded, just wanting to have a chat and things like that. And yeah, just big up everyone on that front. I was going to save this for the last of the lockdown ones, but I'm going to kind of get out the thanks now, I think, just to sort of say why people are listening, and got the time to listen, if you will, on that front. But yeah, other good news, Crossing the Streams is definitely coming back. It's going to take my Sunday night slot on Total Rock, that had this In Conversation podcast going. And what's happening with the podcast, or what's happening with In Conversation, I hear some of you say. Well, Total Rock have agreed to mirror the podcast onto their site, so it becomes more of an official Total Rock product on that front. So some of my shows will have a heavy, more rock appearance to it. Maybe even have a few sort of snippets of Total Rock, like their idents and stuff like that. But I'm still going to continue, obviously, interviewing comedians, actors, DJs, all that kind of good stuff as well. So some of them will be branded with the Total Rock idents, just purely because it's more relevant to that. But yeah, no, the sort of general sort of format of the podcast won't change. But yeah, no, it's just that I could only maintain one radio show. And the podcast kind of does itself. I do very minimal editing to this, unless anyone specifically asks me something to edit out, which has never happened. So, yeah, I can maintain this because the chats generally are unedited to a point. I mean, I round off a few bits here and there if we sort of tail off at the end and start talking about random other bits that don't really pertain to anything relevant to the podcast or anything like that. But no, generally the editing on these things, you probably notice I keep in everything, all the words, all the ums, the ahs, the pauses, all that kind of stuff, because that's a real conversation. That's how I speak. That's how they speak. I could go through it and delete all the ums and the ahs and the ers and all that kind of stuff, but it's really not worth it, because that's just editing my voice at that point. And I've got to train myself to sort of stop doing those moments, those ums and ahs, really. And the more I'm aware of it, the less I should do it, I hope. But now I've made you more aware of it, you're going to listen out for everything now, aren't you? Yeah, I know you are. But anyway, I am now at a point of rambling. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow with episode 149, and I've got Rob Swift and Dilly on the show for my DJ special. He of the Executioners, who work with members of Linkin Park and Static X for the track It's Going Down. And yeah, go check that out. It's a fantastic track. But today's show is about Mushroomhead, their new album Wonderful Life, which is out on June 19th on Napalm Records, which I must say is a fantastic label. I want to give a shout out to them because they've been absolutely fucking brilliant for me. They've got a lot of bands and they've been really welcoming in having them have a chat with me in the long form as well, not your short promo interviews, but the long form, half an hour plus, and it's been absolutely great. I just want to give a quick shout out to them, and all the everyone else, like I said, all the PR, press agents, bands, everything who I've reached out to at this time. You've all been absolutely magnificent. Love you all. And yeah, without much further ado, here is Skinny from Mushroomhead. You guys enjoy. today on my show, I have Skinny from the band Mushroomhead. He's a percussionist and founder and general sort of like leader of said band. Welcome.
Hey, man. Thanks for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely my pleasure. I'm a fan of your band. I'm going to take you back a little bit, if that's all right, to the first time I saw you guys live here in England. It was actually almost 18 years to the day, believe it or not.
It goes quick.
It does. You were playing at the what was then called the Mean Fiddler, or the London Astoria 2. You played with Il Nino. I had the ticket somewhere, and yeah, it was May 2002.
Was Flaw on that one, or was that with Kitty?
Floor, I believe.
Oh, okay, yeah. I remember that run. Absolutely.
No, it was good. I mean, it was a total surprise to me because I'd heard of you guys. You were in the magazines at the time, yeah, it was just like seeing you guys on stage was immense. There was so many of you for a start to fit on that kind of small stage in that venue. But the mix of sort of like the metal, electronic, and sort of like industrial sound, really, really kind of like resonated with me, and I picked up your Double X album.
Right on.
Which I think was the one out at the time.
Yeah.
But that was the first album I owned of yours anyway.
Yeah, that's right when we signed with Universal, so we'd started getting a little bit more of the international push, and that was one of our first European and UK tours, actually.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, because like I said, you were in the magazines at the time, but I was going there because I used to go to gigs all the time when I was younger, as you do when you've got disposable income and no responsibility.
Right.
But yeah, no, it was really cool, and like getting the chance to actually speak to you guys or to yourself, and this is amazing for me because it's like one of the sort of like bands that I've kind of like admired from afar because I've only ever seen you live at that point. Despite having various opportunities, not just here but in the States as well, to see you guys, and I've there's always been something else going on. So I'm hoping this time round, once everyone's back on the road and everything, I think 2021 is going to be a manic year for gigs and stuff. But if you guys make it back over here and everything, I'll definitely be there. So
yeah, that is the plan. All of our 2020 plans have just been postponed until 2021. So, and over the last 4 years, pretty heavy since 2016. One of our main goals was to reestablish ourselves independently over there in Europe. So we've got a storage facility with a secondary B rig that we've been slowly building over in Essen, Germany, so we don't have to ship all of our stuff. We can just kind of get on the plane and get over and start doing more shows. So now we don't have to just wait to be invited to festivals. We can actually go and do some club touring on our own, or even if we are over there doing festivals, we can stay a bit longer and do one-offs in between a little successfully. Yeah. So once the world figures out what the hell they're doing, let everyone go back to work, you're going to see a lot more of us for sure.
No, that's really good. I'm really looking forward to the new album, sort of just to bring it up to date. I really enjoyed the single. It kind of really grabbed me as well, which was nice. I was like, you know what? And then I just sort of sent an email to Napalm saying, these guys doing interviews? And yes, you are.
Yeah, real cool. Yeah, Napalm's been great to us. They've been really good with the press. They just got their shit together. They're really well-rounded as a label. They've got their finger on the pulse of everything current and modern. They got a lot of bands. They believe in their bands, which is really cool. They had a lot of faith and a lot of patience with us. I couldn't be happier, because it's a new label and we've never done a record with them before. So they're keeping us, busy and, cracking the whip and keeping us on our toes, which is great. It's been a little challenging to meet some of these deadlines because, let's face it, all this, art and creativity turns into a product that needs to be marketable at some point. And we understand that, this is our 8th album, 27 years deep. But the first single, the Seen It All, to get that video done it was pretty, I don't want to say difficult, but it was definitely it was the difficult part was trying to figure out how to film 8 people and make it look like they're all together.
Yes.
So like almost every shot, if you look at it, those band members are all individual. I think there's a few shots of Tommy who's playing guitar and Stevie together, and a few shots of Tommy and J-Man together. But other than that, every single person was shot separate on a super skeleton crew. So it's definitely been trying.
Yeah, and I mean, sort of adapting like that as well to the situation. I mean, I've sort of spoken to bands in the past that have members sort of dotted around the world, but they still sort of like put together videos and things like that, but usually using, you know, like green screens and all that kind of stuff. But your one was actually, I wouldn't have known really if you hadn't have told me. It was actually very well done. So it's nice to see people adapting to this situation, which has been, you know, I mean, obviously there might be, obviously I don't know how you've kind of dealt with it, obviously releasing an album and everything. How's that kind of been for you with the sort of like evolving with the like sort of building the plane in flight, if you will?
Yeah, no, that's exactly the term, without a doubt. That's how it's been. We got to land this thing with no wings and no landing gear. Got to makeshift some landing gear real quick and figure it out. That's definitely been the case because, like, again, back to that video. So the album was pretty much wrapped up and mixed and finished. It was mastering was going on when they started shutting everything down.
Okay.
And the mastering was done by Howie Weinberg and his camp over in California. And here, California was one of the first states to go as far as to do shutdown. So, man, we were literally by the hour. We were by the seat of our pants because we didn't know what the hell was going to go on. So the music was pretty much finished.
Yeah.
There was a couple of things that had to get tweaked after the fact, after everything was shut down. But the video was the one that was that showed the most complications. Not just like the band members not willing to, be together because, a couple of people were a little freaked out, still are about, it's a weird thing.
Yeah.
Some people wear masks, some people don't. Obviously, the band wears masks, so it's kind of funny for us. But, the big one was renting lights, renting any tracker dolly, like trying to just do the normal things you would do to film a video.
Yeah.
Even locations. Originally we had a separate location we were going to go to and film the band a little bit more together. So again, we did that in our warehouse where we rehearse. That whole thing was shot right at our place. We, came up with that the concept was pretty much the same anyways, but it was in a much larger facility that didn't have power. So we would have had to rent generators, lights, more crew. We weren't able to do any of that. So we had to do it all ourselves, basically at home.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just funny because when I look at, because I did all the editing on that one too, so when I looked at it, I had to keep in mind the pacing of it and keep it exciting enough to where you don't notice that everyone's separate. They're just in a very strange room.
yeah. I mean, it fits the aesthetic of the band as well, so it's kind of it's like a video you would, I don't want to say expect from you guys, but. Sure. Just the way that it was done. Now that I know the sort of inner workings of it, it's kind of a very kind of like a Mushroomhead video, if you will.
Sure. Yeah, the way it's edited, quick, fast, twitchy motions, skipped frames, things of that nature. That's just kind of the style of the way our Mushroomhead videos look. Yeah. And when I said almost the same thing. I was like, it looks like a Mushroomhead video. Now, as a producer and as a director, and as an artist, as in the band, I can tell you honestly that it was supposed to be much more on a grand scale, much more of a We Are the Truth or Solitaire Unraveling style. Like it, to me, this one, and it's really funny that the video reminds me of it because of the way it was done. And sonically, this type of song, the song itself sonically reminds me of Sun Doesn't Rise. And then when I go back and I listen to Sun Doesn't Rise and I watch that video, all those band members are cut together separately and added into the fact as well. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, I didn't even plan that. But both of those things just really resonate and hit home to me as far as, wow, we're in familiar territory, so to speak. Yeah. And, even with brand new people, it's a familiar territory. We haven't changed the sound so much. Like I like to compare it to the Star Wars thing or Mortal Kombat, where you bring in new members, you bring in some old members with new costumes and, got a whole new face on it, but it's still Mortal Kombat. Yeah. You still know what you're in for. So that's kind of how I feel about Mushroomhead. It's still Mushroomhead, no matter who's singing, who's playing, who's acting, who's wearing what, it still turns it. And it's not even, thought out that way. Like I said, I didn't think of that song as The Sun Doesn't Rise, so to speak, until the video was done, because the video reminded me more of, wow, everyone's kind of separate. It's not so much about one thing. There's a whole other element going on. It's not just about one character. It's funny. Like I said, we got into very familiar territory because the album gets into uncharted territory, places we've never been before. But it's still dark and doomy. It's very Mushroomhead. But I really enjoyed making this one because it was, like I said, it was uncharted, and I didn't know where it was headed sometimes. And to me, that's great. The unknown is just awesome.
No, that's awesome. I mean, like you said, you said a moment ago, just sort of like it. You have the Mushroomhead sound, and it doesn't matter who's in the band. If I go back across your sort of discography, you have a certain style, and it doesn't matter what kind of like changes that people have made or you've made to the band or whatever. It still sounds like Mushroomhead, which is absolutely fantastic because a lot of bands that kind of rotate people and stuff like that, they lose certain sounds and things like that. But you've kind of maintained the vision that obviously that you have along with your like other musicians in the band. But you've managed to maintain that, which has been fantastic, to be honest with you. Because, like I say, a lot of bands, they can change, and sometimes it can be for the worse, sometimes it can be for the better. But you guys have kind of maintained that kind of what's the word? Status quo, I guess, is the word. I think that's
sure.
No,
yeah. I totally agree. It's been, and it's just one of those things to where when you listen to, as an artist, when you're working on it, does it come across honest? And that, I think, is the end result of why the Mushroomhead stuff, doesn't matter who's singing or playing, has been consistent. It's honest artwork. There's some albums that I have issues with, certain songs, without a doubt, that I think are contrived and it sounds forced or it sounds pushing or fake. Basically, we didn't maybe know where we were headed with that one and just ended up kind of parked a little cattywampus, if you will. But on this new one, I think it was really focused. I keep saying this one damn near wrote itself. It was just everyone was very much on the same page and just knew how to contribute in the right way, even if your idea didn't get used. Everyone was very, like I said, open to the idea of trying. It's very much colleagues that work together. Yeah, and peers that work together instead of, oh, my part's better than your part. It's not like that. Especially this time around, the writing was just a lot of fun. Someone would sing something or hum something, and then someone else would say, hey, what did you just say? And then it'll spin off into a whole hour worth of, Frankensteining lyrical ideas back and forth. And then that turned into a whole nother concept. So it was very open and honest on the writing this time around.
No, that's an awesome situation to be in, because I like, from my sort of like background myself, I was a musician, or I was in a band, I should say. I was a turntablist. Yeah, I know you've guys got one as well. But having that kind of like, when you are writing and your ideas are listened to, they're not like instantly poo-pooed away, if you will. And then and even if your ideas weren't used, it wasn't done in such a way of like, that idea was complete dog shit. It was like made you feel like insignificant. But that situation is great because it does. You start writing, it starts writing itself. Things like ideas flow. Like you say, you had that moment of when some guy was humming and then another guy was playing and another guy was messing around with lyrics, and it just kind of evolves into something.
That's definitely it. And that I think that comes with part of the patience game of 27 years and album number 8. Yep. So like, even if you don't like something right off the rip, it's become more of a, well, why don't I like that off the rip? Let's listen to it. Let's break it down. Let's absorb it. Let's see what is truly bothering me, or what could be better, or let's at least give everything its day in court. And like I had said earlier, Napalm's just been very patient and understanding as far as crafting the art, if you will. It's not just a product for them.
No.
They understand, and that's another major reason we're with them, because they like what we do, and they were very much do what you do. That's why we hired you. Yeah, no, I mean, with Napalm, I've discovered so many bands with them, just because they have been so active in getting quite a roster together, a diverse roster as well. It's not just sort of like straight up metal. There's all the different genres of metal, if you will. And I've discovered a German band, I think it was about a week and a half ago, called Fireschwanz, and they're about to release something on Napalm. But they're like a medieval, sort of medieval folk metal
totally German. They dress up in the whole garb as well, so they're all in like medieval knight outfits and all that kind of stuff. But their music's really good, like really powerful. It's not just a gimmick; it's actually, really thought through, like music.
Cool.
And then I've got a friend of mine band on there, Skindred. They're on there as well.
I've been listening to Skindred forever.
Yeah.
I think with 2006, 2004. I forget the name of that album, but man, I've been a fan for those guys for a really long time, and holy shit, are they amazing live?
Oh yeah, totally.
Talk about the energy. We were fortunate enough to catch them on Soundwave. We were part of the Soundwave Tour Festival in 2014, and they were on it. And I had been a huge fan for years and never got the opportunity to see them. So every Soundwave that we didn't have a flight, I ran my ass off over to the other side of the facility to check out Skindred I think there were 6 or 7 shows, maybe 5. We saw them almost every fucking time. They're amazing live. Just what incredible energy. God, I love that band.
Yeah, they've been, I mean, when I was in the music, like when I was in my band, we played a lot of their early shows in London and Birmingham and places like that to like very small rooms of 20 people. But they always had this knack of turning that particular situation where it would normally be quite a sterile gig. I've had my experiences of like very small crowds but they turned it into a massive party. It was crazy. And then I've seen them sort of progress from there to watching like videos of them playing festivals in random European countries and commanding an audience of 100,000. And you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, they're absolutely incredible. That's how it was with Soundwave every day. By the middle of the first song, they've got 10,000 people just bouncing, and by the last song, everyone that could physically see them, just a sea of people just bouncing. It was amazing. I was really, really happy. I actually got to meet Benji. We talked a little bit in one of the little shuttle rides back and forth. He was very, very down to earth, really nice guy.
Yeah.
Great band. Sorry, but
no, it's good. It's all good. Cool. Well, I've got a couple of questions left for you, man. And I can let you get on with the rest of your promotional day, if you will.
Worries.
What I want to find out, this is more sort of centered around you rather than the whole band. But what I want to find out are your 3 most pivotal albums that you can kind of pinpoint and say, this is what made me want to make music. This is what made me want to play drums or anything like that. What are those? Do you know what those particular albums are for you?
It's really tough because as an artist, it's more of, I would have to say like the Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Yeah.
Okay. Got into that way early on, when I started smoking pot and doing acid and all that. I was young.
Yeah.
Way before absolutely. Way before I played drums or anything like that. Now, I was kind of a late bloomer. I didn't really start playing drums until about 15 or 16 years old. That was influenced by metal, 100%. Didn't have really any interest in playing, like Pink Floyd style drums. not when you're 15. You just don't. Yeah. But you can, as an artist at 15, I absorbed it and I understood it and I just loved how deep it was and how emotionally it rang to me. But okay, so that would be number 1. Number 2 would be, and I got to split this between Megadeth, Peace Cells, and the SOD album.
Okay.
Those 2 records made me want to play drums, made me want to be a metal drummer.
Nice.
And particularly the song Peace Sells. That one rang true to me as even before I knew I was a music producer. That one, because I wanted to play drums, but I wanted to be in a cool metal band.
Yeah.
And that song showed me that you could play metal without playing blasting double bass everywhere. And you can have a groove and it can be somewhat catchy and commercial.
Yep.
And be very successful at it, and then turn around and play whatever the hell you want, metal-wise, double bass, killer leads, all that shit. But as long as you've got your feet firmly planted in the belief of doing something a little more commercial that'll reach out to the people that don't want to hear blast beats.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I understood that right away when the Peace Cells came out and MTV picked it up. I was like, holy shit, if I'm going to be a metal drummer, I need to be in a metal band that can make music that does that speaks to the normal people, the people that don't like metal. And it's not just lyrically; it's the hook and the bounce and the feel of the direction of the song. And then, as a composer, it's really tough. I have a hard time separating myself from the management position and the composer artist, because I can't just say one album, because the last few years have been really heavy with bands that I kind of blew off and I didn't really listen to. I'm a huge fan of female vocalists, always have been. From
brilliant.
Back in the day, the early 90s stuff, PJ Harvey, Bjork, Lamb, Massive Attack, things of that nature. I was really, really into that type of stuff. And I kind of gave it a little bit of a break because there really wasn't a whole lot of it unless you were looking for that 90s and more industrial or electronic sounds, when you broke into metal. And then, in the last 15, 20 years, female fronted metal has just been huge.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of a late bloomer into In This Moment and say Lacuna Coil.
Yep.
But man, I got turned on to them in about 2016. I mean, I knew of them and I listened to them, but I didn't really absorb it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I started to absorb it, and I listened to the production, and I listened to how it was presented, and the amount of space that they make for that vocal to be cut in the middle there. And so where there's not a bunch of beats, a lot of shitload of notes being played, it creates all this space for a wall of sound to just be gigantic and heavy. Like, it makes me wish Typo Negative was still around in 2020, you know? God, it would be just, and, the massive wall of sound just crushing you.
Yep.
So Pink Floyd, Megadeth, and then, boy, man, lately, I'm having a really hard time to come up with one to, I'll tell you one that really inspired me within the last year. There's this Russian band called Slot.
Okay. Or
it translates The Slot, SLOT.
Yep.
I went backwards with them. I turned on to one tune and then got that album, and then I went backwards and found that their latest album is it's a lot different than their newer stuff. But man, I don't know who's doing all their production. I don't know. I don't speak Russian, so I don't know a word that they're saying. But I forget the name of the album. It's like CR13 or TB200, KB200, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
It's called, the band's called The Slot, a female and a male vocal. They remind me of Diane Antwoord sometimes.
Okay. Yeah.
And then they get into almost like a commercial metal, but it's got a Europop flavor to it. It's a lot of elements, man, going on, and the production is amazing. I can't recommend it enough to people. It's got EDM quality to it sometimes, and just these cool single string, bouncy metal riffs. They got these cool Meshuggah style breakdowns that pop in out of nowhere. It's just, and I use the term Meshuggah breakdown loosely. It's not like math metal at all, but just pop into this, like I said, single string bounce for a second. It's like, wow, there's a whole song. It's really interesting stuff. So cool. That's definitely the Slot band. KB, it's KB200, I believe. Okay. KBT200. Yeah.
KBT200. Cool. I'm going to check that out because I really like the kind of electronic rock metal crossover type sound, especially with sort of main room, big room kind of dance music in there. Yeah,
you'll dig this then, man. She turns into she's got a cool metal scream, and then she's but not death metal. She's just got a cool raspy voice. And she can sing her ass off, but then sometimes it turns into like if Katy Perry was doing metal. It's like, what the fuck is that? Yeah, really inspiring. Really inspiring. Check it out.
Yeah, and I got into a lot of female fronted bands as well. Bands like Hailstorm and they say In This Moment, Arch Enemy, all that kind of lot, and Ginger as well, a new one. They're on Napalm as well, actually. But it's absolutely brilliant. Now that the voices are just so powerful, and they're focused on as well, and it's not just about the sort of what used to be the sex appeal of them, if you will. That's how they were sold before, but now you can actually, like you say, the production's there, the live show. I've seen Hailstorm live a few times, and absolutely magnificent.
She's amazing. She's when people say they have it, she is just natural talent. Oh my God, that voice, the power, holy shit.
Yeah.
What a powerhouse.
Totally,
amazing.
totally. And take you back to that sort of that Megadeth choice as well. It was like when you were talking about it, it kind of reminded me of what Avenged Sevenfold did, because they kind of came from a kind of more of a hardcore background, and they made I think it was Nightmare, or was it the Hail to the King? It was one of the albums, the one that kind of like basically they just simplified the drums, and it became like, as soon as that came out, I was like, you know what, that is going to make them headline festivals next year. And what happened? I was like, I don't want to say I called it, but it was there.
Oh, you're right on point. We did a lot of touring with Avenged way back in the early 2000s before they blew up, and I think it was Nightmare that I think you're right there when that happened, and it was the same thing. Simplify those drums, make some space for that vocal to be huge.
Yep.
It's funny, as a producer, and those guys laugh at me all the time, like when we're mixing or editing or working or rearranging and composing, I'm always firing the drum. I say it all the time, fire this fucking drummer, Jesus. Another fill? We really need another drum fill here. Like, so a lot of times people, like, oh, you don't play as much as you used to, you don't play this, you don't play. Well, I'm 27 years into this, I'm almost 50, so my playing style has changed. I will be honest with you. I don't want to play blast beats all the time. It's just not part of who I am right now.
No.
So I understand that artists do evolve, and they change. But yeah, it's funny because I'm always like, simplify the drums, man. Fire this fucking drummer. I say, they just all chuckle, but I truly mean it too, because as a drummer, I'll sit down and I want to play, and cool ideas everywhere. And then it's like, well, what does the fucking song call for? And then we just start stripping drums away. And by the end of it, it's very simple. It's like, well, shit, if I would have known that, I would have saved us a lot of time. I would have played.
Yeah.
But you don't always know until you put things together. And that's where the patience and the experience comes in. And just knowing that, hey, this shit's going to change. You're going to have to replay all this stuff once we decide what it's going to be.
Yeah, exactly. Finally, Skinny, I've got one question left for you. I was going to ask you, but looking at your surroundings around you, I know you got your camera on, and I can see I haven't got mine on because I haven't got a camera on this thing. But what are your hobbies away from music? What do you kind of do when you're not producing music?
I'm a total gear nerd. So I'm looking for new microphones. I'm looking for new mic pre's. I'm playing with compressors and EQs. I dabble a lot in software as well, trying to find, cool stuff to do, like EDM shit. And I found this killer software not too long ago. What the hell is it? Avenger? I can't think of the name of it. But it's just got killer, like, keyboard patches and I think it is Avenger. It's killer keyboard patches and like good EDM sounds, and quite a bit of it's on the album. I wish I would have got turned on to it like at the start of the album, but I'll save it for the next one.
Yeah.
I'm always searching for gear, and then being a video guy as well, I'm constantly playing with cameras. We've got a hell of a red setup, and just testing different lenses and lighting, and playing around with just video concepts, and dabbling a little bit in, obviously, a big Photoshop nerd, as well as Pro Tools, any of the Avid Suite stuff, Adobe Suite stuff.
Yeah.
I'm starting to learn a little bit of the the After Effects, excuse me.
Oh yeah.
Which is really deep, and I definitely dig what you can do. It's like Photoshop for video. I absolutely love it. So it's pretty much audio and visual. I'm the nerd kid with the cart bringing it in for the.
No, that's awesome. I dabbled in electronic music for a while, and I've got a bunch of stuff on this system here. I use Ableton as my main sort of DAW, but I dabbled in Renoise. Have you ever tried that?
I haven't.
Oh, that's a trippy one.
Right, hang on, let me write it down. I'm going to open up this Pro Tools real quick. I'll tell you exactly. You said Renoise?
Yeah, Renoise. Yeah.
Okay. Double check this name for you real quick.
Yeah, go for it. Because I'm always
killer software.
I'm always looking for stuff. I use things like the sort of standard stuff like Machine and stuff like that from Native Instruments, and all the bits I kind of like, been downloading. Various plugins and whatnot, but no, I used to dabble in synths and stuff like that back in the day. And obviously, I'm still a turntablist, so I still do scratching and make weird noises with records and stuff as well. So
traditional vinyl, though, yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. And I've got the new sort of like there's this really cool gadget thing that they've brought out called Phase, and it acts like the DVS sort of vinyl.
Okay.
So and it sends a signal, but it's a little transmitter that sits on the platter and just turns with the record, and you don't need to use the needle basically. So it saves me hundreds of dollars in needles.
I bet.
But no, I've got things like Tractor and use Serato, all that kind of good stuff, and just sort of like dabbling in various making noises and stuff like that, and getting records and doing various things with records. So
you can see this screen or not, but that's it. VPS Avenger.
VPS Avenger. Cool.
Yeah. Avenger Production Suite. Avenger. Yeah. Keilworth Audio.
Keilworth. Cool.
Yeah. Keilwerth. Killer stuff, and it's not that expensive. And I think like the you buy them in packs, the plug-in packs to update them. I think they're like $60 or $70 a pack.
Okay.
I got up to $1,000 really quick.
I'll have to be careful, especially in lockdown.
Yeah, killer shit everywhere though, man. You'll love it.
Yeah, cool. No, I'll check that out. I've been looking for something new to play with anyway on that front. But it's just looking at all that, and it's I was quite the gearhead at one point. I've kind of scaled down since. Thankfully, well, my wife kind of like thankfully.
I understand that. With technology, man, you don't need as much as you used to. I'm literally looking at the other side of this wall has 5 guitar heads sitting in here, anywhere from Marshalls to Mesas to you name it. I don't use any of them anymore. I'm using all Kempers. I'm still using cabinets. Because I want to capture that cabinet tone, but. And especially live, we're just, man, the Kempers it's great. And we've done a lot of modeling of our own amps and that kind of stuff. But, I can't believe how killer the technology and the stuff that's coming out nowadays and how convenient it makes it for artists to be able to create. Like literally there's no excuse. If you're in a band and you don't have killer stuff, what's your excuse now?
Yeah. Well, Skinny, I'm going to let you go because we've run over a little bit.
No problem, man. I really appreciate the time.
Yeah.
And I hope you enjoy the rest of the record.
Thank you, man. I look forward to it, and have yourself a great rest of your day, man.
You too, brother. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Later.